Hi, I'm Tara Manisic, TZManix on Twitter and GitHub. I am a developer advocate for progress, here to help guide you through the wonderful world of Kendo UI built for React. This is sadly the last video in this series. If it's the first video that you're seeing, you have gone backwards. You can continue to go backwards, but it will be very confusing and you will be undoing a lot of code. But I'm not here to judge, to each their own. If you would like to go in the correct order, all the videos are listed below in the comments, along with some resources, including the repo that we made for the project that we built using Kendo UI React components. What will we be covering in this very last video? One, I will let you in on the secret of how we've actually been coding a progressive web app this whole time. Fun, right? Two, we will talk about all of the other components that there are inside of the React component library, including the ones built specifically for React, true React components, and the React wrappers that we have. It's a lot of them. Thirdly, we will look at more resources that you have at your disposal, including demos and blog posts and forums and a ton more. So to get us rolling, let's talk about progressive web apps, also known as PWAs and PWAs. That last one always gets me, PWAs. Anyway, so yeah, the project that we were working on was actually a PWA, and I want to show you what in the files made it a PWA or PWAE. If you're new to PWAs, basically they are a way to take advantage of modern web technologies to make your web application perform better no matter or independent of your network connectivity. And they also give you a way to make your applications more engaging and re-engaging to the users and give it an app-like feel. This is a very big topic that we won't be able to cover at all in this section, in this part of the video, but I have also linked to one of my progressive web app talks, and you can check into that, and there's a ton of resources online to look more into this. But now I want to show you in the project that we created what Create React app gave us to make our app more PWAE. Make it a progressive web app. Let's look back into the code. I don't know how I'm going to bring it in. So if we list out the files that are actually in our project and go first into our public file, you will see that there is a manifest.json. And if we look inside of that, we see that it's basically a key value pair JSON file. And this is metadata that is given to your browser to kind of say, hey, this is how you treat this application. This is how you display things. To give you a quick run through of each of these things that we have in this file in particular, the short name is listed under an icon that we'll talk about in a second when the user chooses to install your application onto their home screen, which is a capability that your manifest.json gives you. One of the best things ever that I always bring up in every single talk is that it supports emojis. The next thing is the name, and it's basically just the name of your application. Icons are what we were talking about earlier. When you install it on the home screen, you have that icon on the screen. And there are a lot of other options for choosing your icon. Create React app only gives you one inside here, but it's an array of icon objects you can add to. Your start URL basically tells the browser where to open the application when the user opens it from the home screen. The display decides whether or not you want a full screen view of your application or leave the browser code up there if you need it. Standalone, full screen, browser gives you browser Chrome. Next is the theme color, and this is basically just matching the color of your search bars and things in your application. And finally, the background color is when your app is in transition from opening, instead because it has to open the browser and load your resources, which can sometimes take a little while. And this is basically saying, like, when that flip happens, put a color there so people know something is happening. So that's your manifest.json in a very, very tiny nutshell. But you can find more information on that at, this is the page for MDN, for Mozilla's documentation, and they have a great reading on that. Next, I want to show you the other thing, let's get out of insert mode, that Create React app has given to you. And that is inside our source folder. Did you see it there while we were coding? This register service worker.js. Service workers can be very, very complicated because they can do a ton of stuff for you. The best thing to remember is that, look at this file. It's JavaScript. It's event listeners. It's promises. It's things that you know. And what's great about the file that they gave you here in Create React app is there's a lot of comments to help guide you through what's actually happening. A service worker is basically a JavaScript file that is running independent of your application. It's a proxy between your application and the network if the network's available. Basically, being kind of like a old school phone operator that is saying, the network isn't available, but there's information that I want to give to it. I'll cache it until the network is available again. And you get offline caching this way, in saying that we don't have a network, but we will cache these things. Or when a user goes to open up your website again, if you have cached resources and they don't have a connection, if they're on an airplane or on a subway train, they will have those cached resources, so it still looks like your application is working. They have instant feedback, and it loads super fast because it's in the cache. And also, this is how push notifications work, basically saying that the application isn't open, but they're subscribed to push notifications, so a service worker can give you this information. Again, very in-depth topic that we will not fully cover at all here. So check out the developers.google page on service workers to get a really great, thorough understanding about service workers. And if you want more information about progressive web apps in general, there's a great page on developers.google as well in their web section on progressive web apps. Also, feel free to check out any of my talks and ping me about progressive web apps because I think they're awesome and I love to talk about them. But let's move on. So you have started making a progressive web app. Great time to continue to delve into it by messing about with your manifest.json files and checking out that service worker file. I could talk forever about this, so I will stop now. The other thing I want to talk to you about in this video is the fact that we completely just skimmed the surface on the components that we could have used. So I wanted to walk you through the documentation on these components so you could take a look at what there is. I feel like I'm constantly discovering new things. So I would love to share with you a quick rundown. What we looked at in this video series were just one of the React wrappers, but there are also a whole bunch of other true React components. So we looked at the grid and the layout. If we go inside, a few that I wanted to touch on are things like our animation library. And what's great in our documentation is not only do you have all of the code and how to put it into use and the APIs, but we also give you live examples of what these look like to give you an understanding of what you're going to see on your page. You also get to see the source and the plunker. But I want to just walk through and show you components. The buttons we talked about, but there are also the button group, which you see here. Data query we used for our grids. Date inputs, I think, are super handy and people use them a ton. And this is basically being able to input and use your arrow keys like I'm doing right now to select a date. And also gives you a nice way to scan through different dates very easily. And all of these UI, UX animations, these interactivity that's happening, all comes in that default theme. Again, so nice to not have to think about those things. Okay, we talked about our grids and our inputs and our drop downs. I also wanted to show you date math. I love this because I am constantly doing things scheduling. I live by my calendar, so things like this are very fantastic to me. So if you pick today's date and then you want to say, okay, 3 weeks time, let's meet up. You just add 3 weeks and now you have your new date. Nifty, right? Forms. How many forms do people build? There's forms on everything. We made practically a form, but we didn't use this form overview of this form styling. So this is a great resource for people. So I wanted to bring it to your attention. Now, there's so much more inside of the React wrappers. So if we go back to our components and we hit this tab, the React wrappers tab, this list is very long. So again, I just wanted to show you a few things that are very exciting and very popular. First of all, the layout. People use the layouts a lot, the menu, panel bar, and tab strip, to help with the layout of pages. And this basically gives you interactions right out of the box to help you guide people through your page, to help them with navigation and whatnot throughout your page. Which also brings me to the tree view. So we have the tree view, which gives you a lot of great interactions, but also the tree list. And we get questions about these a lot because people are using these in their websites constantly. So these are the types of things that you can get with the tree view and the tree list. And the last thing I want to show you, it's like show and tell. Don't you miss show and tell? Is the scheduler. The scheduler is one of the biggest things that we get asked about, and I think it's super nifty. Again, with the Terra and the scheduling, trying to schedule this chaos. The scheduler is really fantastic because not only can you get these different views of what the calendar looks like, but then you can actually bring in the full calendar to take a look and see these see the calendar in front of you and all the dates while having other views of like your agenda or the week, and then jump back to the day. So we have this here, and then we also have the source available right there. Speaking of the source, I want to jump from the components to the things that help you use the components. One of my favorites are the demos. In the demo pages, you can go through and mess about with trying the actual component and just seeing and feeling how it is to use the component and what the capabilities are of the component. Then once you get your feel of that, you can delve into the actual code and widget configuration for these components. So it's a very, very handy resource that you can get a ton of mileage out of. Next up, one thing that I think is very handy is to get information from other people who are actually using the components. Also people who are on the actual team. And for that, we have our forums page. And this is where you can ask any questions, help other people out, or even just have discussions about when to use what components or how people have gone about it in their projects. And you can see there are a lot of forum discussion rooms. And when you go inside of the discussion rooms are sorted out to help you go through by component and get into the conversation, ask the questions, and you can see how many times admin has come in and actually taken part in these conversations. So we are active in these rooms because we want to be helpful. Next is the blog posts. We have a bunch of blog posts, both from people on the team and people from the community, to help talk to you about different things that are happening with Kendo UI, with progress products, and also in the community and with the different tools that we're using. We try to keep you up to date with everything that's happening, all the options you have, and give you tutorials on different ways of using our components. And we're always open to suggestions for things that you want to learn about for blog posts as well. We're happy to abide. So there are a ton of things here that are great to help you learn more about the components, learn how to use the components well. And one last resource that is one of my favorites, I may be biased, is our Kendo UI YouTube channel. And that's where you can, of course, find this series, but also a bunch of our release webinars. And these webinars are here to guide you through all the new things that we are coming out with and that we have to offer you as they come out. What page can be bad if there's a picture of Toshmagosh on it? So speaking of different things coming out, I want to remind you to check out our kendoui.com page, and you can see that we have, we'll go to React. We see that we also have our roadmap listed. You can check up on there to see all the new things coming out and all the things that we have to offer. Okay, I feel like you are really ready to dive in and get going with your Kendo UI React projects. Remember that we are always here if you need help, if you need questions answered, if you need to talk about what to make next. We are happy to help. You can reach out to us at Kendo UI on Twitter. You can reach out to me on Twitter at tzmanix. And I really appreciate you joining me on this journey of the React video series. Thanks for coding with me, thanks for hanging out, and hopefully I will see you soon.